Greetings, BUSN 1360 Software Apps for Business. So let's do our Word Chapter 1 grader together. And I have a little note there that says how to earn 100%, the hard way, and also the best way. And I wanted to remind you of why I might say something like this, because I wanted to remind you of how your assignment is scored. And to do that, let's look at the syllabus very quickly just for this first grader. I'm in pause and I'm going to click on content, and under getting started, if this is not expanded, click it. See the folder for syllabus, schedule, My IT Lab registration information. And here's our syllabus, and I'm going to click that. And just as a reminder, first of all, be patient because it has to download. There is a download button towards the bottom of your screen so that you can save this to your computer and very quickly reference it. As I scroll through the syllabus, I'm going to look into the assignments. Lots of good information here. Detailed explanation of assignments. There's the attendance quiz, introduction, create your My IT user lab, quiz information, training simulators, and chapter graders. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about today is the grader, and this is the project where you save the files to your computer, you do the work from your computer, not in a simulation, and then you upload it for immediate grading, but also immediate feedback. Okay, so let's look at this. When you log into our course in My IT Lab, you will find one grader per chapter designed to assess your ability to apply the skills that you have learned. You will download, save from the web to your computer, files and instructions. You will use the Word 2019, later on Excel, later on PowerPoint 2019 edition, software applications installed on your computer to complete the steps. You will load and upload, in other words, save from your computer back up to the web. So we download from the web and then we upload back to the web the completed files. My IT Lab provides a grade and a detailed report of errors. It provides a detailed report of errors. Very important. To improve your score, open the file that you still have saved on your computer. So you uploaded it. My IT Lab said there's something not quite right about this. Don't download again. You don't have to start from scratch. Just open the file that you had been working on. Then, back to our instructions, correct the errors and upload the file again. Points for this assignment, this is what I wanted to talk about, will be awarded on a pass-fail basis. To earn points, pass-fail points, full points, you must make a grade of 70% or above. If you do, you earn full points for the assignment. So, next bullet item here of the instructions, if you earn a 69.999 or less, you earn a 0 for the assignment. But if you earn a 70 or a 71 or a 72 or a 73 or a 92 or a 93, then you get 100 points. Now, I want the learning to occur, and that's why I began with this title slide, how to earn 100%, which means a passing score, which is going to result in 100% of the points, the hard way, which is also the best way. In other words, let's try to actually make a perfect 100 so that the learning, and that's the best way, so that the learning has occurred. Back to our syllabus. We'll talk just a little bit more. Okay, an important note, in some cases, grader projects have inaccuracies. Let me please just be very upfront. This is a computer. Have any of you, raise your hands, I can see you. Okay. Have you ever had a computer problem and you really think you've done everything right, but something is marked wrong? Well, we might see a little bit of this. I have used this product for a long time. I have used this edition one previous semester. This is the beginning of the second semester. And there's not a lot. I don't want you to feel like every time something goes wrong that you have been penalized. Please don't be in this victim mode in that way. I don't want you to feel victimized. That's really what I want to say. I don't want you to feel victimized and defeated at all. What I want you to understand is that there might be some little glitches, but you're being, you're going to get the points for that. So I want you to know that I'm supporting you through this. I really do want you to know I'm supporting you through this, okay? So for the most part, this pass-fail method compensates you for any glitches, okay? That, it took off 1 point here, but you're getting 30 points, for the full pass. So you may say to your instructor, but if the system had graded this correctly, then I would have gotten a 70%. The real problem is that you're scoring so low that you have not earned a grade within a 30-point window that I provided. So while I appreciate, and I do, learning about the errors, please do tell me, because I try to pass those along to the publisher so that we can get them fixed, okay? And that makes the course better every time it's offered. I also believe that a 30-point window for passing is your compensation for the system errors. So it's not that the system graded you wrong and therefore you didn't get into the 30-point window, give me the points. I've actually had some emails like that, not from you all, okay? The point is that I need you to do a little bit better. If you can go back and correct one error, you might then be up 2 errors. You might then be within that window, and then you will receive full points. And I am here to make videos like this to support you, to answer your questions, and I am glad to do that, and I hope this helps. And I know you're anxious to get to it, so we are going to get to it, but I have to tell you, please, just one more thing, bear with me. Before the due date of this assignment, of any grade or assignment, you have unlimited attempts and submissions. So when you upload, here's why I like the graders and why I want to assign those to you, is if I was grading these manually, you would do the work, you would email me the work, and there's no way I could just keep turning those grades around and keep giving every single student in the class that feedback. And so what we would do, as in many of your classes, there's a due date, you submit assignments, and then you get a grade. And then we move on to the next content. Well, what the graders do is they let you upload, they identify errors, they let you fix the errors, and then you upload again. So the unlimited attempts is my point here, because I want to promote your learning, okay? So let's go on with this. It says, let me just finish up this little piece here. You're expected to submit the work, to review your errors, to correct your errors, and submit the work again. That's the learning process. So each time you submit your work, your score should improve. If you do not know how to complete a step, step 1 is to go to your ebook, okay, to your ebook. It's searchable, and it has videos and things like that. Or review a similar step from the chapter simulator. That might remind you how to do something. Okay, so students also find that using the built-in help in Word and Excel and PowerPoint, or simply Googling, you can Google, that's okay. The task can be helpful. By improving your skills, you'll improve your score. And that's the whole goal here, is to improve your skills, and the score relates to that. So important note, if you do not know how to view the MyIT Lab report to find your errors, you'll waste time. So save yourself time by simply fixing the errors identified in the MyIT Lab system. Now, I have tutorials, and remember I had to update those links because they changed. Promise you, I had checked those before the class opened, and so there was very recent changes, but I did provide you with the updated links, so please look at that, and then make sure that you're submitting by the due date. Some additional notes, no late work, this kind of thing. Please make sure that you're aware of that. Don't let that sneak up on you. Anyway, and drop grades and all that. I'm going to leave that to you to read. So I'm investigating right now our first, as we said, let me go back to this, Word Chapter 1 grader. So here we go. Are you ready? Here we go. I've opened up my browser. Recall that Chrome and Firefox are the preferred browsers. I've logged in. Now I'm logged in as a student, and my pretend student is Betty Baker. There's no such student. This is a pretend student. here's the course, and I'm going to click on that. So I had to be very patient and wait for the book to load. I may have mentioned I have a very slow internet connection, so if you're like me, just be patient, it will eventually load. The book is telling me find exactly what you need, easily sift through notes and e-text with the search. I'm going to click on Next. Study smarter, pre-built flashcards, matching, and practice questions make studying easier, something you may want to explore. And make the e-text your own. Take notes and highlight directly in the text and keep it all organized in your e-text notebook. Explore the text. It says see your entire text by clicking on that button. Try out Notebook. Add highlights and notes as you read. Isn't this a smart book? And it's still loading, you can see. I am going to notice this is the window, and it's a separate window than the one behind it. And I'm just going to click this square to maximize so that it's over here on the side. I don't really need the book right this minute, but I will go ahead and click on Introduction to Word. This is our first chapter. And here's the first page. You can see that there are many sections I can go directly to. And I want to just very briefly introduce you to the organization of this. I can click on each learning objective and read steps and learn about that. And I encourage that, and we're going to do that. I can also click on hands-on exercises, and you may think, why would I do that? And the reason that you may want to do that is because of the videos. The videos in this will help answer questions that you may have about how to accomplish tasks within the assignment. So the minutes that you spend watching this hands-on exercise, it's not an assigned work that you have to do, but it's going to be very informative. Okay, for example, the skills that are covered: create a document, how to reuse text, how to add text and navigate a document, and how to review spelling and grammar errors. And in Chapter 1, you may say, I already know how to do all that, but in later chapters, I'm going to remind you that these were tasks that are covered. You may also notice that there's a reference here to the simulator, because these are also tasks that are covered in the simulator. So it's very much repeating. I'll show you this. I'm not going to play the video, but I'll show you that it's short, 6 minutes, so you can definitely, go through the task. And I'll also show you that there are pictures here so that you are really getting the how-to versus the best practices that you need. And again, here's this X, see that? And how did I get there? That was hands-on exercise. And each of these sections has those video clips. Okay, so those are very, very handy. Trying to think of something I can show you really quickly. Now, how about just view a document in different ways? So if in comparison, this is more of a reading. See how I'm on page 91, and this is more reading of the book. That's not to say that there are not pictures, that there are not how-to steps and explanations. But obviously, with a quiz, you can see how this reading will help. But you will see it, especially as we get deeper into the chapters, how-to instructions within the text itself. So that's quickly those resources that I don't want you to overlook. The hands-on exercise videos, the clickable links to the pages, and then more clickable options. Do remember that that was a window. You saw that I just grabbed that. And behind it, we were in my IT lab. So my book is still open in the background of my computer. And hopefully you have already completed the multiple choice quiz. I mentioned that in a previous video. I started with you in a previous video to the class the simulation training, and notice that I just did one of the tasks, so it's still in progress. When I finish that, I'll see a grade there. And with you, I kind of introduced the grader, but the video was so long that we did stop. So let me return to that. Now you see that I've already made one submission, but remember I have unlimited attempts. And if I had saved that document, I have to confess here, then I would reopen it at this point and I would continue working. But I didn't. Shame on me. I'm going to click these 3 dots and notice that I can open or I can view my past submissions. That was the thought that just came to me. What if I view my past submissions? This is where you get the detailed feedback. Anytime I have a submission, I'll see them displayed, and I'm going to get feedback on my work. The only task that I completed for this particular assignment was this very first task, and I feel good about that because I got a perfect score on that particular task. If I want to see the file that I submitted and continue working on it, see right here where I can click on Download Submitted File? Let's do that. Word of caution. When it downloaded, down here in the browser bar, you see that it looks like a folder. Well, what that means is it's not the actual file. It's a compressed version of the file. And they do that to save the download time, especially for people like me who have slow internet connections. So when I click this to open it, it's a folder. And depending on the settings of your computer, you may or may not see that it is a zipped file. Zipped meaning compressed. We zipped it up and compressed it, okay? When you immediately open and work on that file, I do not recommend that, because the computer is going to keep trying to compress it while you're working, and sometimes that can lead to errors, and why bother? So all you have to do to uncompress it, to unzip it, is to copy it out of this file. Okay, so what you can do is you can just select it and copy it and paste it into a folder where you're keeping your documents. Now, that's the next important part, and this is our first video on graders, so bear with me in terms of the length of the video. Okay, last time I mentioned to you that it is important to keep your work organized. Imagine an attorney who pulls up the wrong document and emails it to the prosecution, to the defense, and that wrong document contained all the confidential information. Imagine an accountant who pulled up, who selected the wrong file and emailed to a stranger your personal tax records with your social security, your date of birth, everything. That would possibly to you be unforgivable. I could certainly understand that. File management is important for any aspect of business. You have to make sure you're on the most current copy of your work. If you keep pulling up a past version of the file, you may feel overwhelmed, or that you're looping through work. You may not understand the grades that you're getting because you know that you fixed something and it's still marking you wrong because you've submitted the wrong file. As we go through the course, we're going to have many files, Word, 4 full chapters, and Excel, and we get so accustomed in our minds to working on a particular file, apologize for that, to working on a particular file, that sometimes when we get ready to submit, something kind of takes over, and our force of habit, we navigate back to the file that we worked on yesterday or this morning, and we submit the chapter 1 file into the chapter 2 grader. And why did we get this 0? What happened? How did... And it's just simple human error, okay? And it happens. So just like we said, the computer might make some mistakes. The first question we want to ask is, did we make a mistake? And before we even get to the blame game, why don't we just try to avoid those errors to begin with? And we're going to do that by making some folders, okay? So I've already mentioned this is our file. I've right-clicked on it and I've copied it. Now, I personally have a little flash drive that I use for my classes, and I can see it over here in my list of files. For me, it happens to be called the E drive. If you are going to save your files on the desktop, that's fine. Create a folder. Create a folder to keep your files. If you're going to save your files in the My Documents folder of your computer, that's fine. Create a folder. If you're going to create a document or store your documents in the downloads, once it's downloaded, it goes to the download folder, and that's where you want to keep it. Again, this is fine, but it is critical that you organize these so that you are are submitting and working on the correct files. The more copies you have, the more files you have, the more difficult it becomes to stay organized, and the easier it is to make an error. Now, I've created 2 folders. If you are not aware of how to make a folder on a Windows computer, I have my toolbar up here, and I can simply click on New Folder. And you notice the default name. Please, I get this error from my computer all the time. We're just going to ignore it. It creates a new folder, and this blue highlight means that it's selected, and the current name of the folder is new folder. That's a terrible name. It needs to make sense. So I've already created a Word 1 and a Word 2 folder. I know ultimately I'll have a Word 3 folder, so why don't I go ahead and create that? I apologize that my computer is... I have all the same problems that you do, right? So we're in it together. We really are. Okay, I have my Word folder, and because we have worked, on this earlier, I did download the files for this, and they're listed right here. And notice that this one has the word instructions in it. This is the work product. Goodness, I'm sorry. I don't normally get it quite that much. This is the folder, the file we're going to work in, because it begins with my last pretend name. My pretend student name is Betty Baker, and that's Betty Baker's file because it begins with her last name. And so you see that there. There are other files. These will be used as we conduct our work. Okay, so this is a fresh file. It's newly downloaded, and I've done no work in it, and I'm going to go ahead and just double click to open it. Goodness. This is kind of working at home. I apologize. This is my personal computer, and I have some problems. I apologize. So here's the file that we're going to work in. But remember, I said we also had the instructions, and you can double click those to open that file. I have done that, and I printed. Do you see this? I printed my instructions. Now, if you are comfortable using your screen, go for it. For me personally, I like to, and I have the fortune of having a printer and paper, and I realize I'm grateful for that. You can also follow along with me on this video as we now begin to tackle the grader. Step 1 of these instructions, and I do have those opened here, says change the orientation to portrait, display non-printing characters, delete the first 2 lines, which are water for life and changing lives daily. So I'm going to go over. Now, if I don't know how to do this, if I don't know what they are talking about, then I need to go back to my book, and I need to read some of those steps, because that's kind of part of the learning process. It develops the critical thinking, which truly is a part of this course. Okay. First thing it said was to change the orientation to portrait. Well, I have my toolbar across the top, my menu items across the top, and I like to see my options. It was collapsed there. So I clicked on Home, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to click this push pin so that this ribbon stays here. And that's just a personal preference. As I come across, I'm going to go to Layout, Orientation, and I'm going to change it as instructed to Portrait. Next, they told me to display the non-printing characters. So I'm going back to my Home ribbon, and inside this paragraph grouping, do you see this backwards looking P here? This is kind of an editor's mark, and it's called Show Hide, and when I click it, you may notice that I have all these additional characters that are displayed. And the dots represent spaces every time I press or somebody press the space bar. And these kind of backward looking P's, that represents every time you've hit the Enter key, or that the Enter key was pressed. if you see grayed out kind of characters, this is because it is in a different section of the document. In this case, the header. There's headers and footers, and we'll learn about those. But let's focus right now on the main document, which is in the darker text here. We've changed the orientation to portrait. We've displayed the non-printing characters. We were asked to delete Water for Life and Changing Life Daily. I've selected both of those, including the paragraph mark, that's what this is called, at the end of the sentence. And I'm simply going to press the delete key on my keyboard. I'm now asked in my instructions, oh, should I save? Well, if I were to lose the work, would I want to do that again? No. So I'm going to save. The document's already named, so all I have to do is click that little button up here. Most of you don't remember floppy disks, but that's what that is supposed to look like. Like I said, that just shows that I'm human like you. We have these computer things and we just soldier on, right? We're just going to continue. Now I need to change the margins. That's the next part of my instructions. Change the margins, insert a page break at the beginning of the document. Interesting. Okay. And I'm sorry, it said change margins to moderate. So, back to my document. Let's go to Layout, and here's the Margin button. And as I look through, it appears that a moderate margin is 1 inch at the top, 1 inch at the bottom, and 0.75 left and right. I'm going to click that. Insert a page break at the top of the document. Well, I'm going to tell you that the best way to ensure that you're at the top of the document is by using some keyboard commands. Now the keyboard command, there's a little hitch here, is Control Home. But on your keyboard, when you're searching your keyboard, let me see for me, sometimes, especially if you're on a laptop, sometimes that Home button shares a button with another key. And so you need to look, is that Home button in an alternate color? Is it, for example, blue? Or is it underneath another key or above? In other words, does it look secondary in some way? Because if it does, then instead of just Control and that button, you might have to press an additional key. On my work laptop, my work computer, I do have to press the Alt. I'm sorry, it's not Alt. It's like a blue button that I have to press to make my blue home key active. On my home computer, I just simply have to press Control Home. So you need to look at your keyboard. When I do that, my insertion point, do you see that little flashing bar? That's the insertion point, and that tells me where, if I am to enter some keystrokes, that excuse me, that's where it's going to happen. So that's where I need to be. And I'm supposed to insert a page break. And the keyboard command, and I like you to learn keyboard commands, to insert a to insert a page break is Control Enter. So instead of just Enter, it's Control Enter. Now, what just happened? Well, I see that my text has moved down, but I want you to look even lower in this lower left corner. And do you see that we're not on page 1 anymore? We're on page 2, and there's 3 pages. If you're confused or if you're not sure that you did that right, there's an undo button. I love undo. Undo. And do you see that when I undid, I'm on page 1 out of 2. And when I pressed Control Enter, and I can redo, I could do that again, or I could redo. I'm now on page 2 out of 3. Well, what happened? If I scroll, I'm just scrolling up here towards this first page. Do you see this word page break? That means that it was forced. A forced page break happened there. It wasn't just a natural page break like we ran out of paper. We actually said, stop the page here and go to the next page. And that's one of those non-printing characters that is displayed. So I'm going to scroll back down to kind of view this the way that they had it. And let's continue with our instructions. I'm back to my instructions. I think we completed Step 3 there, change margins to moderate, insert a page break at the beginning of the document. So I'm going to save. Anytime I do something good, I save. And anytime I save, I get that error message. At the beginning of the document, insert text from title.docx. In other words, it's a Word document. If you don't see the .docx, that's okay. Sometimes the computer hides that part because it is simply a notation to the computer, and it tells the computer this is a Word document. So that's all that is. So we want to insert that text at the beginning. How did we get to the beginning? What were those keyboard shortcuts? Control, Home. Do you see how my insertion point is now flashing up here at the top? Okay. Do you remember from the simulation that you learned how to insert the text? Okay. Insert and object, wasn't it object? And it was text from a file. Now, where did you save those files? For me, it was on my flash drive, which for me is E. You might have to navigate to a folder or something like that. It was in, for me, my Word 1. See how easy that was to find because I'm well organized? And they tell us that we're inserting from title. And something seems to have happened down here. Water for Life, changing lives daily. Wow, how much more dramatic and exciting is that? So maybe a coworker, maybe our supervisor, sent us this and said, maybe our graphic arts department sent us this file and said, delete those 2 plain lines and insert this more exciting stuff. And so we've just done that. And that was all of step 4. So let's click on Save. Now, step number 5, every time I click Save, I'm going to get that up. I'm sorry. Insert a footer. Okay, I'm on step 5. Insert a footer containing a page number. The page number should be placed at the current position and as a plain number. Ensure that the footer does not show on the first page and close the footer. Wow, okay. Lots of steps here. I'll also point out that on step number 5, it says, note, Mac users insert the default page number in the footer and align to left. So that's what they're saying. Okay. I'm on page 1 here, and they don't want the page number to display on page 1. So we're going to have to address that, but I'm going to go ahead and scroll down so that I'm on page 2. When I'm on page 2, again, do you see this grayed out looking backwards P? So it seems to be in another section, and that section is the footer. I can also tell that because when I look at my rulers over here on the left, and you can also see it along the top, if you do not see the ruler, click on View and see this, here's ruler, and I have a little check box that, I've clicked that. You want that clicked. It makes life a little easier, so make sure that is selected. It's checked. And when I see the rulers, anything in this gray part is the margin, and anything above that, this is the main body of my document. So this is margin, and within the margin is the footer. So that's what I'm seeing here is the footer. And the easiest way to get in the footer, and your book will tell you menu steps, I'm giving you some different approaches, okay? Double click. When I double click, notice that now the main body is grayed out and I'm in the footer. And this is now darker and more vivid so that I can see it. And it said insert a footer. So when I'm in this footer mode, I have things that apply to header and footer. This menu suddenly appears. And over here, it says page number, and page number should be placed at the current position as a plain number. So bottom of the page, oops, here it is, bottom of the page, and do you see this very first option says plain number? Now, I'm going to tell you, that's what we're going to do because that's what the instructions say. In the business world, I tell you what I demand. That's a tough word, demand. Do you see how it says as I scroll down here, page X of Y, that's like page 1 of 3, page 2 of 3, that type of thing, because we all know that copiers jam and printers jam and things don't always go right, and that way you always know that you have the full number of pages. If this says page 1 of 3 and I only get 2 pages, I know that I'm missing a page. I'm missing that last page. But that's not what they asked for, but that's just a really good practice. They asked for plain number. I'm going to click that. Now, it is on page 2, and they said the page number, okay, should be placed. Ensure that the footer does not show on the first page. Okay, up here at the top in header, do you see where it says different first page? I'm going to click that. And you see it kind of move down just a little bit. And now up here towards the top, I can see that that page number is not there. You may say, yeah, but you put it in the header on the second page. If I uncheck that, let me scroll back up. That inserting a page number is a code, it's a field, and it's going to show automatically the correct page number on all of my pages. You never want to type the actual number in the footer or on the page itself. What a maintenance nightmare as you constantly are editing the document and you have to remember to always update that page number. Let Word do that for you. And if, as we do in this case, you have a striking first page and you do not want that little page number, just simply click Different First Page. All right, it says close the header or the footer. I can do that in one of 2 ways. I can click within my document. You'll also see that there is a close header footer there. I've done some work that I don't want to have to redo, and so I'm going to click on Save. Okay, on to step 6. Let me share that with you. Look at this, we're flying through. How many steps do we have? We only have 12. We're almost halfway done. Insert the word adversely between the word that and the word affect in the first line of the second page. Ensure that a space precedes and follows the inserted word. Replace the words as long as in the second paragraph on the second page with the word when. One thing at a time. Let's start with adversely between that and affect. Change that effect, and we are going to click right there and type let me spell correctly, adversely, right? Now, it was very important that I clicked to locate my insertion point. If you come into a document and you just start typing, I don't know where the word is going to end up or what your typing is going to impact. So very important that you get that insertion point first. Save that. Let's continue on with the second part of that step, which says replace the words as long as in the second paragraph. It gets more dismal. Let's find this. As long as, there it is, as long as, and you can see Word is already it has a blue underline there, and it's saying I don't like this, and it's telling us I right-clicked on it, and when I right-clicked it said the problem that it's having is conciseness, and it says it would be more concise if you simply said if, right? And thank you Word, but maybe I like as long as, and if I want to leave it there, I certainly can, but our instructions say to replace as long as with the word when. So I'm going to select, and whatever is selected will be affected. So when it is selected, if I start to type, it deletes it. Okay, so that's all that I had to do. When it comes well. Looks good to me. I'm going to save that. That means that we're halfway done. Woohoo! Use the Thesaurus to replace the word reliable in the third paragraph on the second page with a synonym. They're not even going to tell us the word. With a synonym that begins with the letter D. So third paragraph, the word is reliable. So let's see, we just finished, this was the second paragraph. Let's find the word reliable. And I'll give you a little trick. Not really a trick, you may already know it. As you're reading this, if you just cannot immediately lay eyes on the word, it's, midnight and you can't find it, click on Find and type reliable and let it find it for you. If you will then click on it, that way you won't lose your place. You can close that if you like. And now I found it. Isn't that great? Now, double clicking selects the word. Did it select only the word? No, it selected the dot, which is the space, the symbol for space after it. Just know that. That's all. It's fine. Right click, synonyms. They said replace it with a word that begins with D. How about dependable? Instead of reliable, it's dependable. Save. You won't hopefully get that. It just adds a little chime. I'm going to take that as a positive chime. I'm going to take that as, good job, Dr. McCrory, good job. Okay. Step 8, add flyer for water for life in the comments box in the document properties. That'll just help us more easily find the document when we need it. So flyer for water for life. So let's go back over to our document, and you find properties like that under File and Info, and in this case here to the right hand side it says Properties. Here is, look at all this information I get, even total editing time. I'm going to click Comments and flyer for water for life. Maybe that's the organization that I'm supporting. And then you just want to click away, click someplace out in this safe area, and notice it kind of set up. Go back and save. Now I feel good. I feel like we're doing well. We don't know, we haven't submitted it yet. And I'm not always perfect. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not always perfect. Insert a header, type subject, and press spacebar. Include the contents of the comments section in the document section in document properties. Now, let me just explain this part. Well, they're about to explain. It says use the Quick Parts command on the header and footer tools design tab to include the information. So sometimes what happens is when I used to manually grade these assignments, a student would click into the header bar and they would type, for example, flyer for water for life. They would just type it into the header. Now I would mark off for that. And they would say, that's just so wrong and so unfair because clearly it's there. I can see it. You can see it. You dock me points. That's not right. But that's not the instruction. The instruction says to use the Quick Parts command. And this means you're going to insert a field into the document so that as the comments change and are updated, that it will change in the comments, or in the header. That's the goal. Okay, so it's different to use a field than it is to just type something. And the grader will mark it wrong if you don't have the field. So let's flip over to the document and let's do that. Here I am, I'm on the header, and it doesn't say anything about the header being different. Now, how can I access the header? Remember that I can tell that my mouse is up in the upper area that is the header zone because it's in the grayed out part of the ruler. So I'm going to double click. When I do that, notice that I'm on this special header and footer menu item, and I can certainly change to other parts, but this is very relevant to what I'm working on. And as I look across the top, do you see Quick Parts there? Okay, that's where I'm going to go. But first, I almost forgot. It says that we are supposed to first type subject, colon, and then then I go to Quick Parts. How about document properties and comments? And why document property? Because we went to the document properties to insert it. And if that does not immediately make sense to you, you may find it under other categories, but part of what you're learning is to think like they think, okay? Now, can you see how it's a field? It's not just typed there. Can you see that field? Awesome. Close. And let's see, was that the whole step? Use the Quick Parts command on the Header Footer Tools Design tab to include the information. Close the header. So we did that. Save. By the way, if you notice that sometimes text like this, see, I've clicked in this text, and sometimes it all of a sudden changes. It's not your eyes, it's not the screen, it's that my mouse is momentarily hovering over a formatting change, and Word likes to do what they call kind of a quick preview of what that looks like, and I'm not clicking it, it's just an accident that my mouse has moved over a part of the menu. Okay, so that's the craziness that's going on there. So we're almost done. Bear with me just another moment. It says check, notice also instructions for Mac users. It says now on step 10, we're almost done, check spelling and correct any errors that are identified. The key to success here is to make sure that you're at the top of the document. Oftentimes, if my insertion point, see the insertion point, if it is down someplace here in the document, then Word will check from that point down, and you might miss an error that you're trying to correct. So I'm going to, how do I get to the top? Control Home. So I'm going to show you another trick that might help you, not just in this chapter, but in future chapters, in your job, even in Excel and PowerPoint. Along the top, and I think this started as of the last version of the software, you might notice that there's a search box in Word. And any time you don't know how to do something and you need assistance, you can click up here. And for example, I'm going to type, look, I only typed spell, and it said the best action is spelling and grammar. So rather than hunting through menus or in trying to find, I'm just going to click that. And look at that. It immediately launched it. And it said here, there's one, it looks like spelling error. I got a lot of green check marks. These look good, but I have a spelling error. So I'm going to click on that. And when I clicked on it, it said, young children die from dehydration and malnutrition, results of suffering from diarrheal illnesses that it probably should be could. And that's what they're suggesting here. So all I have to do is click on that. It says you have finished reviewing your editor's suggestions, and I clicked on OK. Isn't that awesome? So anytime, if I didn't know how to set the margins, if I didn't know how to change the orientation to portrait, any of these steps, quick parts, I didn't know how to insert something, I could come to this search box, and that might save me some time. Don't forget your book, you know. I want you, this is a real life work skill. I want you to be able to use it. I want you to be good at it and proficient. So I'm going to offer you those suggestions. I don't need this little box anymore, so I'm going to click that. I'm going to save, and we are just really moving through. Check spelling. It says check for accessibility, correcting for any alerts that are shown. So let me go back to my document, and I'm going to review. And specifically, when I review, I am going to check for accessibility. This is make your documents more accessible, improve analysis and one-click actions, make it easier to reliably fix accessibility issues. Got it. Okay. It says there's an image or an object not in line. So let's go there, and it says it's a text box. Okay. Keep accessibility checker running while I work. Steps to fix. Do you see this down here? Can you see this? It says to change objects in line, meaning they're not floating above. Okay. And this says it's not in line, which means it probably is floating in some way. And it makes screen readers, it discombobulates them where they can't figure out what's going on. It says select the object, and you see it's selected. I can tell that because it has these little dots. If it's not selected, you want to click on the edge there. And right click and then point to wrap text. So I've put my mouse right over the edge. I did right click. I'm going to wrap text, and I am going to pick in line with text. See that? in line with text. And that way, if I was blind and I'm relying on a screen reader to read my screen from, in the United States, it would be from upper left across, then it wouldn't hit this floating object. Is it left? Is it right? I don't know, because it's floating above. Now it's in the line. It's in the paragraphs of text. The object is. So now that fixed our accessibility problem, I want to save that. I hope I've done everything correctly. This is always the part of the video where we'll find out together. Okay, so let me close this. You always want to close. Always, always close. And let's go back to our grader. And remember, I've showed you how to download the file and how to look at your feedback. I need to go back. In fact, I actually need to go all the way back to course materials. From within course materials, I might have to navigate again to my Word Chapter 1 folder, to my grader. See how it popped up into a new tab? If you get an error message or if nothing happens, you're going to be looking for red so that you can click on red to enable pop-ups. We already downloaded. We don't need to do that. We don't need to preview the steps. We're going to choose our file. Where is it? If you don't know, or if you're guessing, this is going to start to get confusing. Luckily, we're well organized. We have our files on our flash drive. This is Word 1. And here's where it's critical, folks. Critical. You got to select the correct file. The grader will tell you you've got like 0 points, or maybe it'll give you a point for something. I don't know. If you upload the wrong file. So remember, I'm Betty Baker. That's my pretend student name. And I'm going to select that file, and I'm going to click on Open. Once I've selected it, I need to upload. Be very patient. Wait until you get success. That becomes increasingly more important as our files get bigger. Then submit for grading. Okay, now, I believe when we first came in here, in fact, I'm sure, that was where that 33% came from. And that was my first attempt. And remember that I have unlimited attempts. Now, obviously, it does not yet see my second attempt. So I might have to be just this patient. But luckily for you, you're not waiting on your instructor to, finish grading somebody else's file, to finish teaching a different class, and to then get to your assignment. You're really waiting for this computer program to go through really fast and grade your work. And it'll be here just really fast. If it doesn't update in a minute or two, you can click on those 3 dots, go to View Submissions. You see now I have 2 attempts. Yay! We're geniuses! What did we do? We earned 100% the hard way, and we learned by doing that. If we had gotten an 80 or a 70%, then we would get full points. If we got a 69%, we get a goose egg. Goose egg. Used to have a teacher who called them goose eggs. That would be a 0%. So luckily we have it. If there are any mistakes in there, we would go back. A word of caution about mistakes. Sometimes, if you make a mistake in the early part of the document, trying to think if I can demonstrate that. Let me mess something up. Oops. Let me reopen that document. And maybe I just delete that. I forgot to put that page break in. Somehow I thought if I just hit the enter key a bunch of times, that'd be the same thing, right? So we're pretending, messing it up on purpose. That's how I created my second page. And I save that. Oh, I hate to save it. I hate to mess up my work. Click on Save. Close. Always close. Always close your work. And I go back to my grader, open my chapter, open my grader, there's my 100%. See, I'm sorry, before I mess it up, see how it says pass? Do you see that? I want to show you that again because it shows the 2 attempts and it shows the 100%. But what I want you to see is that I never penalize you for trying again. I always take your highest score. So I'm giving you multiple attempts on these assignments. See syllabus for number of attempts. See assignment for number of attempts. For the grader, we look together. I'm giving you pass, fail. I'm saying as many uploads as you want, and I'll only take the highest score. So, you know, we're okay. I'm going to click on that. Click on that. Oh, I already opened it, didn't I? There it is. Okay. I'm going to choose my file again, which I just messed up. Remember, I must choose the one with my last name, my pretend Betty Baker in this case. Upload. Wait for success. Submit. Close assignment. Now, we know I have 3 attempts now, and probably got something wrong because I messed it up on that assignment. So I'm just going to give it a minute. And let's check view submissions. Okay, so here you see I have a 96. Well, you know, obviously you have full points on the assignment at this point. But what I hope that you would wonder is what went wrong. And if you wonder what went wrong, you can click on those submissions and you can find the mistake. Now, things worked out pretty well here because all of the subsequent steps are still graded correctly. But what can happen sometimes, there's 2 things that can cause a lot of pain and consternation in the grading of this. And one is that when you make a mistake early on in the instructions, it throws My IT Lab so out of whack that My IT Lab says, I can't figure out where I am, and it starts giving you kind of bizarre error messages. Like it will say something like there's no footer, and you will say, I can see the footer plain as day, I don't understand, you know, and it's that kind of thing, and you just, it gets hard to understand. When that happens, sometimes you do have to start over. Sometimes you can't salvage that file, okay? So just get a fresh start. You can get upset at the computer if it makes you feel better. Give yourself 5 minutes and then say, I wonder what I did wrong. Something must be wrong here, and I don't know. When I was in high school, I was taught how to use a computer by a retired colonel, and he was awesome, and I loved him. And he would say, the stupid computer only does what the stupid computer is told to do. Well, that was before computers were anywhere near as advanced as they are today. Sometimes stupid computer just does crazy things, but oftentimes I find that there's something I have done that is the source of the problem. And part of our critical thinking, which you will do on the job, which you will do in your classes, you know, your English term papers and things like that, is figuring out what that mistake is. And we can't do that when we're doing this, right? If we're saying, you computer, why did it do this to me? Then, yeah, that doesn't work. Doesn't work so well. So I'm not saying everything is your fault, and please know that I'm here to help you. But do take that moment and kind of sit back and think. These take time. Rushing sometimes just the hurrier we go, the behinder we get, and that's certainly true with these graders. So please be careful about that. But in this case, if I click this drop down, it tells me the page break was not inserted, and of those 8 points, you know, I earned 8 points because I got this other action right, but I missed 4 of those points. I should have said of the 12 points. I missed 4 of those points, and you know, so I want to go back and fix that. If I do and I upload again, then I should get that 100%. You may wonder at that point, though, you may be saying to yourself, I don't know if I could, you know, if I don't do it right the first time, how do I fix it? And if that's where you are, then start over. You know, it's 12 steps. It didn't take us that long to do. You know, for example, as I do this insert this manual page break, I might end up with some kind of extra line spacing there. It'd be interesting. I'm going to leave that. I think that's an extra paragraph mark, just to say that as I now kind of tweak and play, for lack of a better word, with this file, what you may see is that it doesn't grade it. Remember, this is a computer and it's following computerized instructions. Those instructions are very, very smart, but sometimes it just cannot figure out every single possible scenario. So last time, I promise, wait for success, success, submit, close. So I have 3 attempts. This was actually my 4th attempt that I just uploaded. Notice that my score never went down, only the highest. Now, that's the grade. That highest score is the one I'm going to post into pause. Let's go ahead and look at the detailed submission. And I was able to correct it. So that worked out very well. That was good. And I think it gave me that little extra line space there. I think it didn't penalize me for that. So that's nice. Okay. Very good. Thank you. I hope this is helpful to you, and I'm going to make another video for your Word Chapter 2. If you do experience problems, reach out to me. I can make shortened, targeted videos to help you overcome a problem if you should run into something. Thank you so much, folks. Appreciate you. Signing off.